Hello and welcome back to Building HVAC Science. We're doing our part here to create better, more knowledgeable HVAC and building performance professionals by helping the two worlds better understand each other, and keeps on showing up again and again when we talk about sizing systems, designing systems. It's the building, the home that needs to be considered. Today's episode, we also touch on that same kind of theme. JT Stewart from Slipstream joins us. And I think this is the first time we've used the phrase red Chevy Ventura van in a podcast. JT's an HVAC consultant at Slipstream. He works with utilities and state programs to build out real-world training that goes beyond that heat pumps are hot and into the basic building science fundamentals that actually make systems work. He gives us a look into what training looks like in the wild, from half-day sessions to multi-day workshops, and how he tries to design them around the human side of HVAC. And he stresses how homeowners are already uncomfortable when the system breaks, and techs can feel that same pressure when equipment and software change constantly. And his take is, most of this resistance isn't stubbornness, it's uncertainty and fear of getting it wrong. And he argues that confidence comes from structure. Give techs time to learn, reduce guesswork, and use tools and processes that help make them make good decisions when support is not available or when the information's lacking. He also gets into handling skeptics when his attendees in his classes and misinformation. And his approach is to challenge people respectfully and bring it back to the homeowner, the client, the contractor's long-term reputation, and the reality that this is a people industry. Hope you enjoy this episode with JT. A couple of the keen quotes we got. Airflow isn't good, it's measured, because JT and I both share a sticker that's on our wall from the Energy Conservatory. Thank you, TEC. Another quote is, most pushback isn't I won't, it's I'm afraid it'll mess it up. Another good quote, this is a people industry, by people, for people. I think you've heard that a lot of places. Okay, let's get into this conversation with JT Stewart on RTFM and the real world HVAC confidence, why callbacks drop when training improves.
Some of my drastically loud voice.
That's a good way to start a podcast, JT. As we started.
And we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Building HVAC Science Podcast. Eric Kaiser here. The great Bill Spohn way over there. We're having some technical challenges today. Technical features. Let's go with technical features. And all the way from the great state of Missouri, Mr. JT Stewart is in here with us today. And JT, you're going to have to tell us a little bit about what you do. So welcome to the show.
Well, I'm still trying to figure that out. It's a fake it till you make it kind of industry, and it's been 10 years still into it. So, hey, we're here. Thank you both for having me with you. This is a pleasure, and also super exciting because it's thinking about before even today, 10 years ago when I started in this industry. I was a nurse before I did this. I was in long-term care nursing. I was taking care of some amazing people in the industry. And my tidbit of getting into the HVAC industry was a guy pulling up in a red 2001 Chevy Ventura van with a ladder strapped on the top of it. And he opened the door and said, let's go fix some stuff. Less expletive. Well, before there was an interview involved with that, and it wasn't just a guy that just showed up with it and was like, hey, you look like you do HVAC, but that's literally how I got started into it. And that was, about 10 years ago. So now, fast forward today, I work for an organization called Slipstream. I'm a HVAC consultant with them. And we work with a lot of utility programs, state programs. We're a non-for-profit company. We're an energy consultant firm. And my goal is essentially bringing all sorts of different HVAC training. I would say heat pump training, but really it's blossomed into finally branching out into like, hey, heat pumps is like a fad thing right now on LinkedIn, I would say, in some sort of way. Like everybody is like, ooh, heat pumps, but there's all this building science stuff that has to happen before all of that. So we're branching into this building sciences, and we're teeing in some customer service portions of it and upskilling workforce development. So all the way back from the red Chevy Ventura van to now sitting with you two today, it's just really cool to think about this is where the industry has led me personally. And honestly, I'd love to say it led me without any student loans to today.
I must admit that wasn't where I thought that story was going to go with a red van. Like I thought maybe he just pulled up and like, hey kid, you want some free tools? Get in my van. Let's go.
I still have some Channel Lock 420s with the blue handles around here somewhere. Those will outlive everybody until the test of time. The next humans that walk the planet after us may discover it on like some ancient tome somewhere and be like, what is this thing? That, my friend, is a crescent wrench.
Those and some Klein linesmen somewhere. I mean, an electrician's hammer. I'm sorry.
Well, everything is a hammer. Depends on how hard you swing it, right?
Where do you find yourself training lately?
We are working on the New England Heat Pump Accelerator. We're working with Chris Morin with that, with the HVAC Pro blog, Jonathan Pryor, and then all of the VIC team and Abode. So a lot of this is based in all New England territory, except for, I believe it's Vermont and Maine, because Maine has took the whole heat pump game and ran with it really fast. Like they did a really good job as a statewide feature, like adopting a primary source of heating and a cooling availability for their state. So a lot of that is going to be there. But then here soon, I'm also training in Minnesota with our friends with CEE on installer training. And then we're also running our Michigan Heat Pump Collaborative. So here soon, I'm going to be in a place called Gaylord, and that's not Gaylord, Michigan. That's Gaylord, because I got razzed whenever I was there last time for saying it like that. So a little bit of all over the place. It's awesome. I love it. And get to see some really cool things and meet a lot of really cool people that are really excited about this industry when bringing it back together. When I first started, there's a lot of Bill Steins, the clear eyes guy, as the trainer. Clear eyes. Wow. And so it wasn't very, I think it's Bill Stein. I may be butchering that name, but just thinking about then to like now where you have so many people that are just excited about this industry and where it's going. And then it's just really cool. I love it. I love being in this industry. I wouldn't see myself anywhere else. And it's just blossoming to everything else. I see, Bill, you have a sticker in your back that is sharing the exact same one that I have over here. Airflow is not good.
It's measured.
That's right.
When you're doing these trainings, what's the typical length and the content and audience reaction? So those three things, length, content, and audience reaction.
So it depends on the training that we do. Sometimes it's a 3-day training. Last year, Zach Payne and myself were tasked with building the curriculum for upskilling the Wisconsin weatherization group to train them with heat pump knowledge. So we were in Wisconsin for 3 days training with that. Minnesota was 3 days, and we've went down to 2 days with a comfort advisor and an installer path. And we've chopped our Michigan heat pump collaborative ones down to a half day. As far as where we get to go depends on where we're relaxed with. For instance, the Michigan Heat Pump Collaborative summits, I start with a whole waterboarding thing that really grabbed a lot of people's attention. I would shut all the music off. I'd sit in front of a bunch of people, and then I would just say waterboarding and let it sit for like 20 seconds. And then I would explain the definition of waterboarding right in front of a bunch of people that I've never met before. And then what it would tie into is how uncomfortable it is for homeowners to have these white shirt, slick back hair people walking into their home when they understand HVAC is there until it's not there. And the first thing they do when they open the door is go, oh crap, how expensive is this going to be? It's not like, oh, who can I call? Unless they had their son or their niece or nephew that was able to do it. But it's always an uncomfortable feature at first. So how can you break that down? And so we work through a flip chart of, let's start with things that make people uncomfortable in the home and what skills you can overcome with that, especially with heat pump adoption. So the response with that was, I freaked out some people in northern Michigan once. And then they were like, you grabbed my attention. That was great. I listened during the whole time, but I did not know where that was going when you started off with waterboarding. And I have yet to invite anybody into like a bad space with that. Until that day, I think I'll just roll with it because it's a good way of catching other people's attention. Just like my Mike Tyson and my weatherization slide that I like to show. I don't remember if I shown that to you, Bill, whenever I was in Pennsylvania, but it's the Mike Tyson meme of the two pigeons. And I put above it heat pumps and weatherization, trying to like kith the two. So
I'll have to look up that word.
Yeah, you might need to. But the reception has been, as far as the adoption goes, has always been, we're in front of weatherization group, we're in front of installers, people that are upskilling from other different avenues of the energy space, whether it be here's or hers raters. They are taking all of this information in, and it's like, how can you just divvy this into 1 or 2 or 3 days? And truth be told is, I wish you could, but as technology changes, so does everything that we're using in the space. 10 years ago, my field piece tools didn't connect to a brand agnostic app on a tablet that system commissioned. System commissioning wasn't even a thing at that time. And then tomorrow, what's going to be the new thing? What is TEC going to roll out for us? What is MeasureQuick going to offer for utility rebate programs or something or another? So it's like, it's always like we're always chasing that change. And that change, once we think we've got a hold of it, it changes again the very next day. And trying to be ahead of that change and trying to communicate that is just like waterboarding a homeowner with all of these tech and all of this stuff. That's why it's not just uncomfortable for people that are just trying to live and comfort their families in their home and also have to not pay so much on their utility bill, but it's also uncomfortable for a lot of HVAC technicians. Think about how many people are literally selling their companies to private equity right now. A2L was like the biggest thing that I can recall back to. That was the biggest scare for everybody, was like A2L, flammable refrigerant, I'm out of here. And it happened a lot. There was a lot of people that were turning over their companies because they were scared. And then you also had the fake videos on LinkedIn or Facebook of these A2L systems exploding off of a rooftop. So a lot of these people are like, oh, I'm not touching it. So we're having to try to break down all these barriers. And it's got some people a little scared of it in a sense of, it's not like I don't want to do it. I'm afraid of messing it up. And it's like, that's where we try to make sure that when we communicate in our trainings, that there's so much to offer for tools and applications out there that can help you identify what's going on with the system. That's why I love going back, and I go back to MeasureQuick itself. And we train on that so much. It's like, this is a way that if you have a technician that calls you 7, 8, 9 times on a Saturday because they're on call and they don't understand what's going on, it's not the fact that they're dumb. It's not the fact that they don't understand it. It's the fact that they want to make sure that they're doing it right. So how can they figure that out? Well, they might be calling their senior technician, but what if that senior technician can't pick up the phone? Now, how uncomfortable is that HVAC technician? So how can you break down those barriers to instill that confidence with your technician? I feel like this has become a whole like MeasureQuick ad at this very moment, but that's how we instill that, because even at the US Heat Pump Summit, there was here's and hers raters and weatherization folk that go up and be like, I don't have a company that I can work for, but I've been doing weatherization forever. How can I get into this without working for a private equity or working for a mom and pop store? I can do this myself. And then there's like, who do they lean on whenever things go awry? Here's an option that is made for you. So it's cool to see where that goes, but that's the reception of the training. Is a lot of people are just, they're concerned of doing it right. And that's why they're in there in the training in the first place.
Around that same conversation, you do a lot of training, a lot of live training. What do you do when you have someone who doesn't want to be there or just isn't getting it? And this is maybe for the educators or trainers that listen. It sounds like you might run into those situations. How do you manage that situation? How do you reach them?
Challenge them.
You mean technically, or like to arm wrestling or something?
thumb wrestle.
Thumb wrestle. That's enough.
Yeah, it's thumb wrestle.
Let's be polite. Okay.
It's strictly thumb wrestle. Yeah. No, I stand over them at the table and I stare directly down at them. But luckily for them, I'm 5'6". So while they're sitting, I'm pretty much looking directly at them straight ahead. Now, this is a good question. So Chicago territory, we were doing some work with ComEd, and their requirement was to go through these modules to get the rebate. And it's really like substantial rebate. And this was actually one of the first times that I felt like it was a divided crowd. One side of the room just didn't like the whole heat pump adoption. They were like, hey, this is kind of a fad thing, whichever. I don't want to go through all these steps. I don't want to pay to play for all these different manual J's and LiDAR scanning or whichever, which we're not selling by any means. We're just saying that exists. And the other side of the group was like, yeah, this is where the industry is going. Let's do this. So this group that was next to me, there was an individual in the front that asked me, it's like, why is this even important? So I had to pause the training at that time to explain to them, it's like, is this important for you or is this important for your homeowner? Is this something that, is it filling out the rebate program that is difficult because there's a team that can help you with that? Or is it understanding the equipment that fit in there? Or is it really the fact that you just don't want to? And I asked him the question and he was like, well, none of this makes any sense. I'm like, think about for your homeowner when they have this program that comes from the utilities that offers them $2,200 and they called you to bring you in to figure out what that is when they're getting options. And then you want to throw it off the table because you don't want to educate yourself with this. Think about how even more confused that homeowner is now and how very important this is that this exists, but also to do it right. And that's the reason why these trainings exist. It's not a gambit of trying to sell more heat pumps or more efficient equipment. Some people, I think, sometimes forget that we are a by people, for people organization and industry. Because even then, all the equipment that's being manufactured isn't manufactured by efficiency meetings because AI says so. It's people that are working with their hands in manufacturing plants that are using water cutting tables, cutting out new side panels for a new 28 SEER heat pump or AC offering in their lineup, but they're first trialing it in their area. I've seen these in Lennox and Ream. I've been to the Fort Smith plant down in Arkansas, and it was awesome because it was a by people, for people reminder of it wasn't just making these things so expensive and so ridiculously engineered because people don't want to understand it. It's literally people are responding to a demand. And that demand is the one that you're leaving off the table that is requesting, there's a $2,200 rebate here or a $1,200 rebate, whatever it is. What is this? Can you help me explain this? So that's where the disconnect comes from, is that contractor needs to be able to explain that.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to that whole point of being challenged is that we're always challenged in this, but we always have to remember we're doing this by people, for people. This is a people industry. And the last thing I left with this is I asked him, I was like, do you plan on retiring in the next 15, 20 years? He said, yes. I was like, okay, what about the next 5? He said, no, I'm probably going to leave it to my sons. Okay. Well, if you're going to leave it to your sons, you're leaving a footprint for remembering that whatever your radius that you do business in is your business forever, even your kids' business. If it's 50 miles outside of your shop, that's your people forever. You make one person upset, guess what? 20 people are reading that 1-star Google review. They didn't understand it just the same. So once that happened, he actually pulled aside. He's like, I want to sit down and talk with you a little bit more about heat pump adoption. Cool. And then by the end of it, he was actually ready to sell heat pumps. It's not the fact they are just unwilling to do it. I think 97% of the time, it's just the fact of where to start or how to adopt it or what do I use to train on these things to help my staff. And people are, I think, finally warming up to it. And I think that might be because of workforce development. A lot of younger people coming into the trade, and I love it.
There's a lot of knowledge going out now, too, that's really readily available about heat pumps. And like you said about the A2Ls, there's also maybe some not so great knowledge out there. unfortunately, but it happens. How do you deal with people when they bring up maybe some of that not so great knowledge and just want to fight about it?
That's a good question. We haven't really had a whole lot of people fight against it. It seems like it's more of a passerby on social media that will say something about it. But in person, no one's ever like, no, like, this is not what we're going to do. This is ridiculous. It's not happened to me yet let's see, I've been with Slipstream for 3 years now, but I'm ready for that day. But if we think about it, it's like, this is growth and development. Right? Because there's always the ghost in the machine that's going to offer that, hey, I'm trying to do this, but it's giving me this error, or this is having this error. But that's the whole process. This piece of equipment here communicates with the thermostat. This piece of equipment has been in this house, let's see, we've lived here 6 months. This is 3 months old, 4 months old. My thermostat has updated 3 times since we put this in. And every single time, it's changed just a little bit. And it's that learning curve. And at first, when I put it in, there wasn't a whole lot of information. And I have a buddy's company that put a lot of these systems in, and his installers are fairly new. And they would go into the thermostat settings, and it would be immediately lost on them because they go into it as like system optimization, and now they've put system commissioning and what's T on, T off, what's all of these things. And there's no describing effect inside that thermostat. So if I was to taking that question back to the installers that are putting these things in, I want to really just quote an old school thing that has been reiterated by Ty Brannaman, RTFM, read the fabulous manual. I will never forget when I was an installer, at that time, Zach Payne and myself, we were working together at a local company. We took a day where we sat and we just read the manuals. Like we were going to sell this equipment, and the 20 SEER piece of equipment is now being available by this manufacturer. How are we going to offer it? First, we need to understand it. Then we broke open the manual and started reading about it as much as we could. And we spent that time to read through this. We RTFM'd that day to understand what it was that we were putting in. And it goes back to that whole, it's not that people just don't want to do it because they think they're dumb. It's just like, where do you start with all this information? And a technician that's in the field for 16 hours a day doesn't have time to sit and read a really thick manual on an inverter piece of equipment. We need to have more companies that instill that confidence to their installers and their technicians to upskill them with the equipment that's changing, and not just throw them in the field and expect them to do it. And then, well, we have insurance, and if it's a callback, that's okay, as long as we stay under 10% or whatever. These companies need to honestly instill more confidence with their technicians and spend that time to be like, this moment in time, your installers need to know front to back at least the piece of equipment they're getting ready to install. Because I can't tell you how many times that with the company that I was with before Slipstream, I was a technical and training director for, it was literally dip switches that weren't set. And then the installers would go, well, shoot, I didn't know those were there. Well, it's not your fault. It's honestly, I need time. I need time with you inside of a classroom. Let's just go over the manual. And once we started going over that manual, their callbacks dropped under 5%. And the less than 5% were like really silly things. We're bringing in some technicians and some installers that didn't know that P-traps existed on air handlers. It's right there in the manual, but it's not their fault. It's because there's not enough time that we're instilling this confidence into this. And there's no wonder why all the manuals are going on these things. And they're NFC compliant. You can connect to the unit and then adjust everything from here, because that's literally where it's going to.
If you've got a real interesting grasp on things and very practical, where's your training available if anybody listening wants to attend? I know you've mentioned a few highlights here. And if your training isn't in their area, are there any alternatives, other types of training you would recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So for myself, my great team with Slipstream run the Michigan Heat Pump Collaborative. We do a lot of trainings in Michigan. So if you are in Michigan, look out for those trainings that come through your city or through your town. We do a couple a year, a few in the spring and a few in the fall. We are going to be lining up some installer training and some comfort advisor training all across Minnesota here in a few months. So look out for that as well. A lot of that information is coming through on the distributors as well. And then we have New England Heat Pump Accelerator that we've been working on that I'm super excited getting off the ground because it's focusing strictly on upskilling workforce development in the area of New England. So I know we'll be getting over to that area at some point in time. But if it's not just me, really, there are so many good leaders out there that it ends up almost being an echo chamber at this point. Social media is like rid of it. Like Bryn Cooksey.
The echo chamber has a door on it so people can get in. That's all I ask you.
It's a revolving door.
It keeps the content inside, but it lets people in and out. Okay, gotcha.
Especially if we consider technicians or people that are in the trucks, boots on the ground, knocking on the doors, getting on the first name basis, building those friendships inside of homes. Really make that training needs to really go through that equipment that they offer. And I hate to say that because there's so much other brands, but understanding what it is that your office or your shop offers in the first place and trying to understand, or not trying to understand, but trying to grasp a hold as many trainings that are available through that distributor or that manufacturer is offered. Because with all this equipment that is changing, I'm seeing with inside companies, they're doing installs by the masses of these new inverter-driven equipment, but the callback ratio is pretty high. And that's really because there's that lack of fundamental training that's not necessarily, it's not available. It's just spending the time to do so. Really go back to your distributor, really go back to your manufacturer, work with the people that are selling you the equipment. I guarantee you that if you made a phone call to your local manufacturer or distributor, guarantee you somebody will be willing to pick up that phone to help them out. Instead of going, well, we'll just put it like it is and we'll see how it is. Or we're going to set this up and see how it goes. Or just forgetting about it entirely. I'd really go back to manufacturers and distributors with as much proper training as possible for the equipment. But then as a generalized thing for service technicians, installers, learn what weatherization is. Learn what TEC guys are doing. Learn what airflow is being measured right now. Learn what MeasureQuick even has to offer. And for weatherization groups that are getting into these fundamental building sciences, especially with the connected equipment with like heat pumps, go to these heat pump trainings. Go to a distributor. Look into what distributors are offering for free courses out there that I'm sure that they would have no problem with putting a weatherization folk in, because that's the enmeshing effect that's happening. That it's a 70% breakdown market, probably higher than that. Nobody wants to wake up and buy an HVAC system. It's not pretty. Nobody does. I don't even want to. I don't want, like, if this thing completely just, for some odd reason, decided to rocket itself into the outer space and maybe hit a Starlink satellite on the way up, I don't want to pay to replace it. And that's coming from someone that did this. I put this in there. Think about from a homeowner's perspective, like they don't just wake up and then they don't want to install this equipment, or they don't want to invest in HVAC because they know that it's expensive. It's just like, I don't want to put a new roof on my house because I've heard how much roofs are. There's no way that I want to do that anytime soon. So it's a breakdown market. And that's also something else that I love, that I know if any service technician, installer, comfort advisor is listening to this, they'll probably want to beat me over the head because, number one, talking too much, but number two, what I'm about to say, technicians don't like this, or service companies don't like this. Homeowners. There needs to be more proper education to homeowners. Because if there is this lapse of judgment of contractor walking in through the house because they have a slick sales metric, but they're passing everything they should do, manual J, manual S, manual D, manual H, whatever it may be, but they have a great company, they're marketing really well, chances are that they are buffering inside of your equipment cost the callback that's probably going to happen. And who's at stake for that? The utility company, because of utility overusage, and then the homeowner. But to the contractor, it's fine. There's a buffer in there. We knew we were going to come back and do this. And I hate to say that, but that is becoming a trend that I'm noticing. I would love to see more education pieces of homeowners understanding, if I'm bringing a contractor over to my house, what questions do I need to ask? What do I need to know that they're doing? Not just because, oh, well, I know that they're offering you this, but for a limited time only for the next 2 weeks, this is the price that I can give you on this. And yes, there's marketing that's involved with that. But homeowners, honestly, if there is any homeowners that are listening to this or people that just want to know about it, I would go back to HVAC school on YouTube, spend 10, 15 minutes of a week or something to learn something cool about HVAC. HVAC school or Brian Orr's platform on YouTube. YouTube has been an awesome solution for a lot of people. And honestly, I will say there's a wraparound services to that. People are like kind of getting interested in it. It's like, wow, this is cool. And then we're seeing more people that are dropping out, just like myself, leaving nursing to go into HVAC. We're seeing so many people coming out of different industries going into HVAC. And I taught at OTC a few years ago, especially after the COVID shutdown. There was a lot of people that were leaving other industries for that one. But at the time, it's because they were getting laid off from their jobs. Now I'm hearing people saying, well, it's cool actually to be an HVAC technician. It is. It's cool. It's like, oh, you know how to do plumbing? That's cool. Are you sure about that statement? That's the whole wraparound services that are happening with what's happening to this industry. And it's being pushed around in this circle where homeowners, if we think about this, the Mr. Cool DIY systems from the home box store, throwing up his arm on the side of the box going, hey, the best thing I did for my garage was I put a Mr. Cool DIY system inside my garage. And I've seen people coming from that, like, hey, if they could do this, I can install a mini split over at my uncle's house. And then they do it again. And they're like, hey, this is kind of fun. And then they get involved in it. That's happening. That's funny.
Very cool. As we wrap up here, what are the key points you want somebody to remember from this podcast for the listeners?
Don't have too much caffeine before you get on a podcast with Eric and Bill. I realized I probably said a whole lot and nothing at all at the same time. I'm self-aware, so I've never had to do the conclusions. That's Elena at Slipstream that's always done the conclusions. I'm like, I said a whole lot. You just round this out. HVAC is cool, honestly. And it's not just heat pumps. It's the whole thing entirely. It's people-based. So I love the fact that it's changing into this whole aspect of people are liking their jobs. 10 years ago, whenever sitting at Johnstone Supply, nobody buying a thermostat or a contactor at that counter was enjoying being an HVAC technician. But now we're seeing a change of this. Like, people are bringing smiling faces and they're like, yeah, this is cool. This is an industry, honestly, if I would say anybody that has a good attitude can do, but just understand that skill set is always going to change, and learn from the people that is bringing this to you from different social media platforms that is brand agnostic by any means. I know that there's a metric to selling stuff, but there's a lot of good people out there that are honestly offering good solutions for people both being in the industry and getting into the industry and trying to figure out if this is something that they want to do. I will say this is a cool industry to be in, and it wasn't cool 10 years ago where it didn't seem like it, but it's super cool now. And I'm hoping that's not a fad either, just like heat pumps.
Excellent. I want to thank you, JT, for joining us here today and sharing your knowledge and your enthusiasm for this. And hopefully we got a couple people interested in learning more and maybe even picking up on some of your training. Let's make sure they come up and give you a high five in class if they heard it here in the podcast. Okay.
That's awesome. I love that. And I appreciate you both. Thank you very much for having me today. And if I said anything at all, I'm not for sure, but hey, HVAC forever. Thank you.
Thanks, JT.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Building HVAC Science podcast. You can follow the show on Facebook by searching Building HVAC Science. Some of the topics we discuss require professional training and experience to interpret or perform safely. So if you're a trained professional, you will know how to apply this knowledge not, consult with and hire a trained pro. The Building HVAC Science Podcast is a production of True Tech Tools Limited. Full disclosure, I'm a co-owner of True Tech Tools. The opinions expressed in this show are those of my guests, my co-host, or myself, depending on who is speaking. If you're looking for tools or test instruments mentioned in the podcast or just in general, you can find many of them at our company, TrueTechTools.com, TrueTechTools.com, and you can use the listener discount code of HVACBS. Thanks for listening and supporting the show. Other supportive resources and influences out there include HVAC Overtime, HVACR Videos, the HVAC Grapevine, HomeDiagnosis.tv, AC Service Tech, HVAC Survival, MeasureClick, HVA Chicks, HVACR School, HVAC Shop Talk, Stephen Raritan, HVAC Reefer Guide, Tool Pros, and Service Business Mastery, as well as Quality HVAC. Thanks again for listening to this episode, and we hope to have you back again listening to the Building HVAC Science Podcast. Until then, take care.